First recording I ever made was, like most of the things I've done in my life, it just happened. It wasn't premeditated. I didn't work hard to do it. Just suddenly I was in the right place with the right people. And the first recording was because my friend in Scotland was a songwriter, and he had done all these things to send to Chappell's Music in London, and he wanted a different voice, and he said, would you sing a couple of the songs? So I said, okay. So I sang a couple of his songs, sent them to Chappell's, and one of the guys there was a producer, and he said, I'd like you to come down and record. And I was like, well, one of these songs? No, I'd like you to come and record one of my songs. And so I went down to London with my mum, and we went into Olympic Studios just off Regent Street. And the song, what was it called? I can't even remember. Imagine Me, that's what it was called. And it was a bit of a kind of, it was a pretty song, but it wasn't really. I was wanting to do more kind of worthy stuff. And so I said, okay, well, I'll do that, but can I do a couple of other songs that I'm choosing myself? And they said, okay. And so I just heard Only Love Can Break Your Heart. I thought, well, that's great. And then I heard the Livingston Taylor album, and I thought, oh, there's a song, it starts, Margaret, here's the thank you song. And I thought, I'd like to sing that. That'd be good, sing something with my own name in it. So we did all three, and there were some amazing people playing on it. BJ Cole played on it. The guy from, the drummer was very famous. I've forgotten who he is now, but it was so long ago, you forgive me. And we made it, and they wanted to do all this promotion on it and stuff, and I just thought, I don't think I want to do this. I don't think this is the music I want to do, which was the single. And so I went back up to Scotland and sort of said, I don't think I really want to do that, Mum. And my mum said, okay, hen, just you stay. And so that was my big foray into recording in a huge studio. And then I decided I'd put an ad in a paper in Glasgow, just saying I was looking to join a band. And so I phoned the woman up and I gave her the information, and she said, okay, this will go in the paper tomorrow. And then about 5 minutes later I got a phone call, and it was this guy saying, I hear you're looking for a band. And I was like, how did that happen? And apparently he phoned in to say they were looking for a singer. The woman said, oh, a wee lassie just was on the phone. Gave him my number. So I don't think the ad ever even went into the paper. And so from there I met Stuart McKillop, who I still work with now. And it was kind of crazy kind of things that happened. I'm a bit shy about that. I don't really want to push myself in that position. But if somebody comes up and asks me to work with them, I'm more than happy usually, because I like working with other people, and it's interesting to do things out with what I would normally write myself. So it kind of stretches you a little bit, and it can be a little bit scary. Like Jack Bruce, I was a huge Jack Bruce fan. Absolutely. His solo albums, I loved them. And I met him in a hotel somewhere in Germany when I was on tour with Mike, and we kind of got on. We were both drunk and we were chatting away, and it was great fun. And then about 8 years later, I got a call, would you like to do this song with Jack Bruce? And I was like, oh, he's my hero. I don't know if I can do this. And talked about it with Pete Brown, who was his lyricist, and thought, no, I'm going to do this because I absolutely love the music and I really want to do it. So got together with Jack, did the song Ships in the Night, and that was just fantastic. I loved it. He was such a brilliant musician. Soul music. Well, funk, really. Okay, my kind of soul music would be things like the Crusaders. The Crusaders were a huge favourite because KOB Bell signed to a record label that had Steely Dan and the Crusaders. And that's kind of why we signed them, because we really liked those bands. And we were supposed to go on tour with Steely Dan, then they cancelled. So we went into the office and suddenly found they had all these Crusaders albums in the cupboard, of which I took them all and took them home, played them, loved them, thought these are fantastic. And there was one track, Fly on Wings of Love, that I've always wanted to write lyrics for. And I actually have lyrics in my head that I've written for it. It's an amazing, amazing tune. So we started with the Crusaders and then heavily into a Scottish band called the Average White Band. Hamish Stewart, one of the best ever. And he came and played with us at one point, and it was just like, wow. Hey, this is great, because I'd grown up sort of loving him. And then there was an English band called Kokomo that had 3 singers from Liverpool who were amazing. And they also had Jim Mullen, who was a Scottish guitarist, jazz guitarist, who was just superlative. They also had Neil Hubbard, who was another guitarist, but from England, who was incredible. In fact, they were just a brilliant band all round. And so I got kind of friendly with them, and they came and did some work on an album with me. And we kind of kept in touch over the years. And then it went from them to who, let me think. There was a lot of really good bands came down to Dingwalls in London, played the clubs there. You had things like the Ramones and stuff like that, Blondie. A bit of a mishmash. That wasn't really soul music, but it was kind of in a weird way. And then let me think, who else? Soul music. I got into sort of people like Etta James and various kind of black musicians, American musicians who just sung blues, really, that merged into soul, I suppose, because it started to be kind of cleaned up a little bit musically and made more for the populace, you know, it wasn't quite so rough and ready. And that was great. And then obviously things like the Yardbirds, Eric Clapton was in that band, and they did kind of a crossover, which I suppose ended up into sort of soul. But just, I really loved that kind of music. I liked the lyrics. I liked the kind of energy. Average White Band I just loved them because they were from Glasgow, and they had this whole different sound to anybody else around at the time. And they just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then Chaka Khan's band, I got into that because I really liked Tell Me Something Good, and I thought, what a great song. And it kind of morphed from there, you know, just anything that you heard, you were thinking, do I like that? Yeah, that's good. Do I like that? I'm not sure about that. With KOB Bell, that was like, I think it was about my 3rd band in. Stuart and I had been in Joe Cool, and then we split that in half, and we joined up with 3 other guys from a band called Up, and that became KOB Bell. It was just like, there's a point in your life when you just feel you can do anything, and that was kind of that point. We all got together. Some of them came from university, they just finished their degrees. Some of us came from other areas that we were doing this and that, and we just all kind of got together. We rehearsed in our sound engineer's bedroom for the first 6 months. He would be lying in bed, and the drum kit set up at the foot of his bed. Simon went on to do lots of really good work all around the world, and he ended up selling, is it D&B monitor systems? He became the British representative for that. I mean, and he started with the drum kit at the foot of his bed, what can I say? But yeah, we kind of slogged around. We decided we weren't going to leave Scotland. We were going to continue to drive up and down the motorway. Didn't matter how long it took, we were going to keep doing that. We got to know the cows and the sheep almost in the fields as we passed, because we'd drive all the way to London, we'd do a gig in Dingwalls, and then we'd drive all the way back, so it's like 500 miles each way. And we just had a really great time. Sadly, in the last sort of 3 years, we've lost Colin, who was the sax player. And then Alan died round about now last year. And I mean, Alan went on to have the most amazing career. Colin played with Johnny Logan at the Eurovision Song Contest when he won everything. And he went on to do that. Alan went on to work with Bonnie Raitt and Clapton and all sorts of people. He was a phenomenal guitarist. And it was just, he had a memorial a week or so ago, and I had to send a little video, and I just felt so sad I couldn't be there. And it was like, well, you know, we grew up together. They were like my family, my brothers, really. And you don't get that after a certain point in your life. Yeah, you're all kind of working together, but it's not that intense. It was so intense. We hated each other every 5 minutes, and then we would love each other again, you know. And I sent a little video more or less saying that about Alan. And Lulu, who he worked with a lot, and Bonnie Raitt sent a video, and Lulu was there at the memorial, and they both said, working with Alan, he was a very tall man. They said, working with Alan was like your wee brother, and you were always having to tell, you know, playing wise, fantastic, but everything else about his life, you were having to tell him, oh, calm down, you know, right, enough of that. He was one of those guys, when we were in London, if we were staying there, because we were doing a couple of gigs, we used to stay at this hotel called the Madison Hotel, and it was bands all stayed there. And Alan wouldn't come back, and you'd wonder, well, when is he going to turn up? And he'd turn up mid-morning without any shoes or something, and he would be going along Oxford Street to come to the hotel, and there was this gambling thing where the guy had things underneath cups and they moved them about, and he was always getting stuck with that. And oh right, he'd bet all his money, and then he'd go, oh okay, well, what have I got? Cowboy, you can have my cowboy boots. You know, he'd never win them, he'd always lose everything, and he was just completely nutty. And that was kind of life on the road with that band. They were all nuts. I kind of felt like I was the mum trying to calm down now, boys. But it was fun. It was fun in a way that it'll never be fun again. And now that music's changed so much, it's become safer to tour because of all the things that happen with touring. You don't get people falling down the back of a PA system anymore and suspended upside down for the whole gig. You don't get that anymore. Whereas then you did. But fortunately, nobody died, you know. But it was, yeah, it could have happened. But now it's, well, our van today showed a big red light, and the driver went, oops. And we stopped for a minute, and I thought, oh, it's happening again. But that'll be fixed and we'll all move on. Whereas back in the day, we'd have ended up having to empty all our stuff out and wait for somebody to come and save us. Not